It's the new Fred Allen Show. Judge for yourself. I like him. Let's get on with Judge for Yourself, and here is a star of Judge for Yourself, one of the most lovable fellows in show business today, Mr. Fred Allen. Here he is.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Old Gold's new show, Judge for Yourself. Well, Labor Day is gone, vacations are over, and I'm really sort of sorry to see the summer ended. I had a vacation this year. I went up to a little place up in Maine, along the coast of Maine. It was sort of a summer resort. The only people were there in the summertime because the winter population was 3 people and 200,000 lobsters. If lobsters can ever vote in Maine, the people will be on the seafood dinners up there, I can tell you that. But this place I went to, the road map said that it was a little sleepy town, and it sure was sleepy. This town went to sleep in 1898 and forgot to leave a call. And the people were lazy there, too. As far as I know, nobody who was ever born in that town left the town because it was uphill. And a go-getter in that town was a fellow who would get up from where he was sleeping and go on to bed. And even the animals and the birds were lazy in this little community. You wouldn't believe this, but the katydids didn't in that particular. And the whole thing was, the whole place became so dull, actually, it was right on the shore. One afternoon, the tide went out, and it never came back. And the tide, that was good enough for me. I went home, too, and that's why I'm here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to explain Judge for Yourself, and here's how it works.
These 3 people from all walks of life are here to try their skill at judging talent. They can win $1,000 if they rate 3 acts in the same order as this distinguished jury of show business experts. The famous band leader and recording star, Woody Herman. The radio and television editor of the Chicago American, Janet Kern. One of NBC's finest and most favorite stars, Dave Garroway. That's our board of experts.
Well, I certainly want to welcome our experts tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kern and Woody Herman and Dave Garroway. This is really the forenoon for Dave because he'll be going to work on his way home on his Today Show, I'm sure. But I'm positive that we're going to get some gilt-edged decisions from this excellent body of experts. And here's our first contestant, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Georgia Loney. Miss Loney, we want you to have a carton of Old Golds with our compliments. Old Gold is the only 14-carat cigarette, as you will see when you try it. Now, Georgia, I want to wish you good luck tonight, of course, before we start, because last week the winner of the $1,000 prize was a motorcycle policeman, as I recall, and he put this money back into his work. He bought a new motorcycle, and he also bought a new billboard to hide behind. He's going into the business himself. Well, now, Georgia, you don't mind if I call you Georgia, do you?
Not at all.
Georgia, that is a peachy name, isn't it? Just Georgia. Are you from Georgia, are you?
No, I'm from Texas.
Oh, you really are? You live in Texas and your name is Georgia? Well, you must feel like a matzo ball in an Irish stew. Tell me, Georgia, how long have you been up here in New York?
Since Saturday morning.
From Texas, really, just from Saturday. Gosh, you've hardly been up here long enough to brag, have you? Georgia, Texas is the biggest state in the Union, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I know. I heard a story one time about a boy in Texas who started to run away from home. And he ran in 2 years in one direction. And one day, when he stopped at a little town and asked where he was, and when he found out he was still in Texas, the boy realized that it was certainly impossible to run away in Texas, so he went back home. And that boy was John Nance Garner. He later ran and gave up, too. But tell me, is it true? Is it true in Texas people have monogrammed oil wells? Georgia?
I don't know about the monogrammed oil wells, but there's a lot of oil.
There is a lot of oil there, especially in the Texans' conversation. But I wish you had a writer. We would certainly have a battle of wits here. But I read in some paper about oil. I read that there's so much oil there that in some town a gusher came in, oil came in a cemetery, and 200 dead people became millionaires overnight. That was true. Of course, it proved that if you didn't take it with you, you can't come back and get it. So But tell me, Georgia, is this your first visit here to New York?
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it really? How do you like our city?
Wonderful.
Is it really? It compares well to Texas, does it?
Well,
It loses something in the
It's not.
translation. I see. Well, it's certainly been nice talking to you, Georgia. And if you'll take your seat with the other contestants, we'll show you our first act, and you can judge for yourself. Thank you very much.
A headliner at the Roxy in New York, a star at the Chez Paris in Chicago, a delight at the Hollywood Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kathy Barr.
When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found. Leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I dreamed of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. Troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney top. That's where you find me. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds cry beyond the rainbow, why, oh
That was Miss Kathy Barr. And now our next contestant, Mr. Howard P. Abrams. Mr. Abrams, we want you to have a carton of old golds, and I want to compliment you on the fact that you are not on the Firestone program tonight. You might have to leave the building dragging an old inner tube with you. But with old golds, you just have a small package. Well, Mr. Abrams, that's Howard P. Abrams, isn't it? Does that P stand for anything?
Yes, it stands for Phineas.
Phineas, really? I always thought Phineas was spelled with an F. It's spelled with a P, huh? Well, Howard Phineas Abrams. Well, Harry S. Truman had that middle S, and he said it didn't stand for anything. I guess he didn't want to give the Republicans another name to call them at the time. But your middle name is really interesting, Phineas. P.T. Barnum was Phineas, too, wasn't he? Phineas Talon Barnum. Tell me, where does Phineas stem from? Where does it come from?
Well, Phineas is really an old Greek name.
Oh, is it?
Translated means mouth of brass.
Mouth of brass. Well, I wouldn't go around translating it if I were you. Mouth of brass. It sounds as though you were talking through the fat end of a trombone, actually. But, Mr. Abrams, do you have a means of livelihood? What do you do to fend off the wolf?
I'm with the National Retail Dry Goods Association, and among other things, I compile a calendar of special trade weeks and trade days.
Oh, the Retail Dry Goods Association. Well, what are some of these festive dry goods events that you list?
Well, such as National Sweater Week, National Baby Week, National Cotton Week, National...
Baby Week, is it? I've never heard of a baby being associated with dry goods. That's what... Baby might take a powder on you if you had the baby involved in a week of that nature. Well, tell me, are all of these weeks on the calendar connected with dry goods?
Oh, no, there are all sorts of other weeks, too.
Oh, really?
Such as National Wildlife Week, National Cat Week, National Cage
Well, how do you
Week.
get word to the cats, that they're having a week? Do you have a man who speaks cat? So tell me, do you think these campaigns stimulate business?
Oh, certainly they do. Take National Wine Week, for example. It makes everybody conscious of better wine.
Oh, I've seen, some of your people lying around in the doorways. National Wine Week. I hope you stand up, these people who are working for you after the week is over. If you could combine Wine Week with Wildlife Week and then invent Hangover Week, you'd really be doing something. Because millions of people have hangovers and have no week to celebrate them, But every time, really, Mr. Abrams, every time I hear about these weeks, I remember what Bugs Bear once said. This is a strange country when we have National Pickle Week and Mother's Day. A whole week to pay tribute to the pickle and only one measly day to honor our mother. I want to thank you for stopping here for a moment. And if you'll go back to your contestant's seat, we'll show you our next act, and you can judge for yourself. Thank you very much.
Recently sang a command performance in England. He's been on 2 worldwide concert tours. Ladies and gentlemen, Miklos Gaffney.
Vita mare quanto bello, mira tanto sentimento, e come tu chi tiene mente, che cacetato fai somma, e guarda d'acqua chi sul giardino, che siente sia il suo marane c'è, no profuma così fino, che dinto cuore se ne va. E tu dici parcia Dio, e torna sto cuore, e dai te. Cuore a non scordar, e non me lascia, e non me sta dormiere te, e torna al pazienza, e fammi
Mr. Nicholas Gaffney. I have, at this time in the program, ladies and gentlemen, I have always had an urge just before the commercial to say, Dennis, anyone? But I have I have always suppressed the urge until tonight, but we'll be back with another contestant after this next word. Well, thank you, Dennis. Here's our next contestant, ladies and gentlemen, on Judge for Yourself, Mrs. Mafalda Doyle. Mrs. Doyle, we'd like to have you have a carton of Old Golds. Old Golds are like old friends. They're the best, actually. Mrs. Gold, your first name, I see, Mrs. Gold. I'm overdoing the product mention here. We'll probably end up with old people named Gold on the thing before we're through here. But tell me, your first name is Mafalda. Isn't that an unusual name? M-A-F-A-L-D-A, Mafalda?
Yes, it is. I haven't heard it too often here. I always thought that my mother gave me that name because it was the Princess of Italy.
Oh,
but
really?
I found out later La Rosa also has a long, curvy macaroni called Mafalda.
Oh, you don't think you were named for the macaroni, do you?
No.
I know a fellow I knew some years ago used to eat so much elbow macaroni that he looked as though he was always coming out of a sleeve, and it was very embarrassing. But Mafalda could be something that's spelled backwards. It isn't, though, is it? If I had well, tell me, Mrs. Doyle, are you a kitchen practitioner?
Well,
We don't say housewife on this show. We have another word for it.
Yes, but I also have a profession.
Well, good for you. What is your profession?
I'm a lawyer.
A mouthpiece, eh? Well, that should be an ideal profession for a woman. It wouldn't require much training, actually. Well, tell me, in your law practice, what cases do you specialize in?
Well, domestic relations, mostly divorce.
Well, unfortunately, divorce, that is a thriving business these days, isn't it?
Well, it is. Right now, statistics have it in this country that 1 out of every 3 marriages ends up in divorce.
1 out of every 3 marriages,
Just
in
about.
spite of Stoppet? Possible that every third marriage is a failure because it's one of Artie Shaw's. Now, that's possible. Artie Shaw wrote a book recently. It's quite good. Have you seen it? The Trouble with Cinderella. You haven't seen it? Well, I don't know how it's selling, but it seems to me it ought to be a big success if only Artie's former wives buy the book. It should have several editions. Well, tell me, have you handled any interesting cases you can tell us about?
Well, we're not allowed to discuss cases, but I have one interesting thing you might. I'm also a justice of the peace.
Oh, you
and
are?
I have married people and later divorced them and still later remarried them to somebody else.
Other people. Say, you've got a pretty good thing going. Say, if you can only just get 4 married people dissatisfied and keep shuffling them around, you ought to keep pretty busy. But it's been nice to talk to you, Mrs. Doyle. I'm sorry that I can't speak at length because I had some legal questions I wanted to take up with you, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to do it. If you'll go back to the contestant's seat, we'll show you our next act, and you can judge for yourself. I'm sorry we didn't have a
After 6 weeks in Cuba, Spain, and the West Indies, after a long run at the Radio City Music Hall, ladies and gentlemen, Rodolfo and Wanita. It's judging time. Time now for the experts to rate tonight's acts 1, 2, and 3. If any of our contestants can rate the acts in exactly the same order as the experts, he will win $1,000. If there is more than one winner, the contestants will share the prize. We will be back for the ratings after this.
Well, I see the decisions are in, so back to Fred Allen.
Well, all right, Dennis. Let us see how our contestants have voted. Now, Miss Loney, I see your list is made out. Will you tell me, please, how you've rated the acts 1, 2, and 3?
Rodolfo and Wanita, 1.
Yes, 1.
Malcolm Gaffney, 2.
2.
Kathy Barr, 3.
Uh-huh. That's Rodolfo and Wanita, Nicholas Gaffney, and Kathy Barr. Mr. Abrams, how have you rated the acts, please?
Kathy Barr 1,
Kathy
Rodolfo
Barr.
Juanita 2, Nicholas Gaffney 3.
Kathy Barr, Rodolfo, and Nicholas Gaffney. Thank you very much. Mrs. Doyle, how have you rated the acts?
Nicholas Gaffney, 1. Kathy Barr, 2. And Rodolfo and Wanita, 3.
Nicholas Gaffney. Did any of you three were you looking at the same show by any chance? Well, now let us see if any of our experts any of our contestants, rather, has matched the experts. Now, Mr. Garraway, have you and your colleagues been in discussion and arrived at a decision?
We have the bomb right here.
You have the bomb ready, huh? Well, you set it off, and I give you this cue. Which act have you selected first?
Miss Barr.
Miss Barr. And second?
Second was Mr. Gaffney.
Second was Mr. Gaffney. And third, of course?
Rodolfo and Wanita.
Oh.
Since the results on our scoreboard show that none of our contestants matched the experts, next week's prize is $2,000.
Well, I'm sorry that none of you contestants won tonight, but the makers of Old Gold cigarettes want you to have a consolation prize of $50 apiece. I want to thank you very much for participating in Judge for Yourself tonight. And next week, ladies and gentlemen, our prize will be $2,000. I'm not very quick at arithmetic. And next Tuesday night, ladies and gentlemen, if the days are in the same order next week, we will be back with this same program, I imagine, up to now. And Saturday night, if you're sitting around the house, don't forget my good friend Herb Schreiner on another network with his excellent Old Gold show, 2 for the Money. Herb Schreiner and our show next week, Judge for Yourself. Thanks a lot for being with us tonight. We'll see you next week. Thank you.